You mentioned the lack of people picketing the Chinese embassy. That ties in very neatly to our next subject, which is the hypocrisy over Qatar. These footballers who are always busily virtue signalling, but when it actually comes down to it, they're very happy to take the money of countries that do not align with their values. And so let's just take a quick look at a clip of Gary Neville on Have I Got News For You.
Ian, is it coming home?
What, your reputation? You're commentating there, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm commentating there.
And what's the defence? Football term.
Commentating there. Well, you've got a choice, I think, haven't you?
What, going or not going?
Well, my view always has been that you either highlight the issues and challenges in these countries and speak about them, or you basically don't say anything, you stay back home and don't go. And I've always said we should challenge them.
There's another option. You stay at home and highlight the abuses. You don't have to go and take the Qataris' money.
I think what's interesting about that really is how incredibly satisfying, at least I found it, to see this guy being. I don't think he saw it coming, actually, Gary Neville. I don't really know much about him. All I know is, isn't he he's a bit of a Labour supporter?
Very, very much so. He's become the poster boy for
this
all
whole
of this
thing.
nonsense.
He's quite right. I mean, I haven't got much time for Ian Hislop either, I'm afraid, these days. But when he said about the highlighting the issues, they've always said that. If you remember the cricketers going to South Africa, things like this, we'll highlight the issues. Why can't you do it here? I mean, do it here.
Well, no, the classic is Jeremy Corbyn, isn't it? He's always going to Iran and he's on Press TV to highlight the issues. He never manages to get to Israel, but he gets to Iran.
Yes, exactly. So I thought it is, it is, of course, it's utter hypocrisy. I mean, they're not. Sometimes they're not the brightest, are they? I mean, like, what's his name? David Beckham has taken out a colossal amount of money. He's been very, very pro-LGBT.
I mean, that point you've just made about them not being the brightest, but Gareth Southgate saying it's our job to educate. Now, when people like that talk about educating people, they mean indoctrinate. They don't mean educate, because education is a dialogue. This is just indoctrination. And they are absolutely and utterly the wrong people.
But you can see it in that guy's face.
Yeah.
Gareth Southgate. Kind of, I don't know, but there's this kind of, it's a kind of woke face.
I think you're right that he didn't see it coming. You could see sort of almost naively, like a child who doesn't realise he's about to get told off, not realising that what he was doing is so hypocritical. And I do wonder whether, I mean, you could ask, well, is it maybe because they don't actually care about the things that they profess to claim about, that they're just doing it because it's good optics? Or is it just that they really do lack the self-awareness to realise that taking Qatari money and going to Qatar, and obviously if they're in Qatar, they're not going to use the opportunity in Qatar to raise concerns about the human rights issues there, because they could themselves be putting
also he's being employed by the Doha industry entertainment network, right? So he's actually you don't bite the hand that feeds you. But I think it's a combination of both. It's virtue signalling to the nth degree, combined with a degree of dim-wittedness.
And what about these performers who are going there, which I think
and Robbie Williams going there too, and others.
People, people.
He was in Russia as well, as we know, for the World Cup before that too.
People will do any number of intellectual and mental somersaults when lots of money is involved. That's one thing. Okay. The other thing is that Peter's just said, it's pretty dim. And lots of people, I'm sorry, but he is, because the people who latch on to this very simplistic view of the world, which is good versus bad, which is, it's such a simplistic and stupid thing to say that we should be taking the knee, and my God, the Hungarian team have not taken the knee. How terrible! Why the hell should the Hungarians take the knee?
This week, of course, it's come to a particular head because we've just had the Qatari football ambassador say that being homosexual is a disease of the brain,
disease
right?
of the mind. Yeah,
that's good timing.
Yeah, exactly. That's just been said. So this was a German television, and it's now caused an international scandal. And there's all this typical pearl clutching by the Twitterati and by the left, and you have Peter Tatchell out there. And I'm just sitting there thinking, well, what do you expect someone from Qatar to actually say?
But the thing is, when you see Gareth Southgate with this pompous horse face, spouting all of this virtue stuff. You almost think to yourself, look, please come back, Wayne Rooney. All is forgiven. You didn't do well. You did some pretty dodgy things, but at least you didn't tell people what to think.
I can't remember whether it was him or Gareth Southgate who made these comments, but one of them also, going back to your point, Rafe, the building that the stadium that's been built. Yeah. Thousands of people died. Migrants died in the construction of that, and one of them made this really absurd comment, basically saying, "Well, these people love football, so it's what they would have wanted." And the point has been made that ensure that the families of those people in India or wherever it is that they came from would take issue with a statement that's that. But it's mad and absurd.
It's part of that wider thing that our culture does. We do precisely the thing we shouldn't do. I mean, the dominant culture. So we're looking to footballers for education. It's the same thing as looking to Hollywood for moral guidance, which is what the culture does. It's just absurd. We've got things upside down, and so we are suggesting now, just to tie it back to the previous point, that we should pay reparations for historically transforming people's lives for the better.
It's not dissimilar either from. Sorry, Peter.
No, I was going to say. I mean, the thing is that this kind of inconsistency, hypocrisy, call it what you want. I mean, it's absolutely nothing new about it. It's almost a tradition. As you said, showbiz, going right back to the 1980s and before, sort of countercultural, as they were then called, pop stars, rock stars would be the same. I mean, on the gay issue, for example, I mean, all the people, rock stars, footballers, whatever, you almost never see them criticizing what happens to gay people in Muslim countries, for example. You never. If you talk about Putin and Russia, and I'm not saying they shouldn't, they go crazy. I mean, you're Stephen Fry's and you're all these people, they will go mad about one principle, and I think he's a little bit indulged, is Peter Tatchell, in the sense that he went and did a citizen's arrest on Mugabe, didn't he? but basically they steer clear of countries where they think it might be a bit of a problem. They can go for Putin because I think he's white and Christian, right? So that they feel okay about that, but they wouldn't go to any of. They wouldn't look and say, well, Iran has, executed 4,000 gay people in the past 3 decades. You're never going to get, One Direction or whoever it might be highlighting that.